Imposter syndrome is not what's wrong with you. I want to say that again because I know you've accepted the label. And I need you to hear me when I tell when I tell you that it's wrong diagnosis with the right wound. What's actually been happening has a different name, and it goes deeper than confidence. And once I name it, you won't see yourself and what's happening around you the same way. But before I name it, I need to tell you something about who I'm talking to because this is not for everyone. And I think you already know if it's for you. My name is Lisa Freefeather. I'm a priestess, a mystic, and someone who has spent a long time watching the gap between the life women are handed and the life that actually belongs to them. I've been in personal and professional development work for years. I've lost both my parents, three of my siblings, navigated grief from a culture that has no language for it. And what I've learned from my own life and from the women I've worked with is that what looks like a confidence problem almost never is one. Stay with me. Here's a truth that I want you to know about women like us. We are not missing information. We are not lazy. We are not ungrateful. We're actually deeply aware, sometimes painfully aware of what's happening around us and inside of us. But somewhere along the line, we've learned to move faster than our knowing. We learn to push through, to honor our commitments over our intuition, to get it done, because that's what capable, responsible women do. And we've taken the gap between who we actually are and what the world wants from us, and we've turned it into a personal problem. That is what imposter syndrome is. A personal diagnosis for something that was never personal to begin with. But here's what I want to ask you. What if the problem isn't inside you at all? What if it's the gap between what feels true to you and what everything around you is built to reward? My body changed before I was ready for it, before anyone around me was ready for it. I was 9 years old. And I don't mean emotionally, I mean physically. My cycle started when I was 9. It was before my sister, who was 2 years older than me, before most of the girls in my school, and the technology for managing that in those days was not what it is today. And we're talking about very thick pad with no adhesive. Nothing holding it in place except for the elasticity of your underwear and your determination to keep your legs close together. I remember wearing my Easter suit. It was a little blue outfit, had Little Orphan Annie embroidered on it, from the musical, and navigating all of that underneath it alone, 9 years old in the fourth grade, terrified it would fall out, trying to look like everything was fine. And my cycle was irregular. So I never knew when it was coming. I spent years feeling terrorized by my own body because it showed up when it wanted to, and I had no control over it. But I still counted those days. And that would have been hard enough on its own. But then something else started happening. Something I didn't have words for until well into my adulthood because my body developed early, it read older. And adults, yeah, grown men, responded to it. I'm talking about street harassment. I'm talking about being approached, followed, spoken to in ways that a child should never be spoken to by adults who saw a body and not a young girl. And I want to be really clear about something. I hadn't even claimed that body yet. I was still figuring it out. I wasn't fully inside of it. I hadn't even arrived. And it was already being treated as public property. So I did what any smart, resourceful girl would do when nobody's there protecting 24/7. I found a way to disappear. I started wearing men's overcoats, big, formal, shapeless, to hide my frame, to take up less space in the world to view. And at some point, I do remember this thought so clearly. I thought to myself, if I gain enough weight, they won't be able to pick me up. They won't be able to overpower me. A child, a teen at this point, thinking about how to make her body less of a target. And I want to be clear about something because I think this really matters. That was not weakness. That was not weak minded. That was a 9, 10, 14-year-old girl that was doing the smartest thing that she could figure out with what she had. When nobody is protecting you 24/7, you have to protect yourself. You find a way. The problem is what protects you in one season can trap you in the next. And it wasn't until I was in a training for domestic violence work, women's and girls empowerment, that I finally got a word for what has been, what had been happening to me. And that's street harassment. Not something I caused, not something about my body, something was done to me. In that moment, I had that word, something underneath me, well, everything underneath me started to shift. Because before that word, the story was living in me like something about me invites this, something about my body is a problem, something about me causes men to behave this way. And that story shaped choices about how I dressed, how I moved, how much space I allowed myself to take up, how I felt in my body for years. Now, the word didn't fix everything, but it certainly changed the address of the problem. So it went from something inside of me to something that was done to me. And that's not a small thing. And that is actually the whole thing. Now, here's where it connects to you. Because just as I described, that moment of naming something correctly and feeling the whole story shift, that is exactly what I want to do with imposter syndrome right now. Here's what I want you to sit with. Your body has been needed. Your energy has been needed. Your ability to hold everything together, to nurture, to create, to show up, all of it has been needed. There are patterns and systems and relationships that run on what you produce, on your output, on your yes. And when something needs what you have, it finds a way to make you question yourself instead of questioning it. That is what imposter syndrome is actually describing, not a problem inside of you. A label that keeps you looking inward while something else keeps taking. Something is wrong with your confidence. That's what the label says. What I'm saying is something was done to your signal, because here's what happens when we override what we know for long enough. When the body is telling us something is off and we keep telling it to quiet. When we choose urgency over intuition over and over and over until one day we realize we can't actually hear ourselves anymore. See, the body is a tuning fork. It responds to what is real, not to what we've been told, what we've been sold, not what everyone around us agrees to call normal. So when women, especially women who are deeply rooted, women who are connected, women who carry ancestral knowing in their bodies, when these women are experiencing illness, exhaustion, disconnection, I want to offer you a different way of looking at that. It's not the body failing, that it's the body telling the truth. See, if what we were living inside of were natural, truly natural to us, we would feel it in our body as ease. It would feel good, it as something that fits. Instead, what we see in my own life and the women I work with, this persistent low grade sense of wrongness. And we've been taught to pathologize it, to call it anxiety, to call it sensitivity, to call it imposter syndrome. What if it's none of those things? What if it's accuracy? Now, I want to say something carefully because what I'm about to say is the part that changes who we're frustrated at and what we'll do next. Men are not the enemy here. I want to say that plainly because I'm not interested in blame. I have a shadow side. We all do. And my shadow side has her opinions, but I am not speaking from that place right now. What I'm saying is this: men are also stuck in something that doesn't fit them, also performing a version of themselves that was handed to them before they could choose. Also losing, but just differently. Their roles were designed to defend, provide, protect authority. Those are also not natural, and they're also a cage. The imposter syndrome, honestly, it belongs to them too. A very small group of people built something that needed everyone, men and women, to go along with it, to keep it running. And it's been running a long time. And everyone inside of it is paying a price. The difference is who it extracted from the most. Now, we're not going to sit here and blame. Blame keeps us looking backwards. And I'm interested in what's forward. Okay. So if imposter syndrome isn't what's wrong with you, and it isn't, then what's the actual question we should be asking? The question is not, why do I feel like an imposter? The question is, in whose story? Drop that in the comments for me. I genuinely want to know whose story have you been trying to fit yourself into? Because once you can answer that honestly, something else becomes possible. And that's what I want to close with. I want to say something, and I want to say something directly before I do close. I don't have a solution to this to hand you. I'm not going to wrap this up neatly. This is not that kind of video, and this is not that kind of work. What I have is this. I see it. I see what's been taken, what's been labeled, and I see you inside of it, capable, aware, tired in a way that sleep just doesn't fit. And I want you to know you are not alone in this, and you are not imagining this. Sometimes what looks like retreating, pulling back, getting quiet, going inward, regrouping, that is actually the most powerful move you can make. Not because the world doesn't need you, but because regroup, recharge, that's not quitting. That's not abandoning. That's not weakness. And I'll tell you why it matters so much that you actually do it. Whatever keeps asking you to pour when you have nothing left, it needs you that way. Your exhaustion is useful to it. Your clarity is not. Now, I'm not here to reach everyone. I'm here for the women who are here for it. The ones who are actually done asking for permission. The ones who are ready to build what's next to come. Not what's handed to them, sold to them, or quietly assigned to them. And, I wonder sometimes. I genuinely wonder, what would the world look like if each person got to actually live what they came here for? Not the assigned roles, not the performed version, the real thing. I think we are closer to finding out more than ever before. If this video landed, please drop a comment and tell me, what have you been calling imposter syndrome that might actually be something else? Like the video if it gave you something. Subscribe if you want to have more of these conversations like this one. And, share it with a woman in your life who needed to hear this today. Until the next one, I will see you then. Mwah.